Imagine, just for a second, that you wanted to build one of the world's biggest, most successful furniture companies. But here's your business plan. You aren't going to manufacture most of your own furniture. You're not going to deliver fully assembled products to your customers. In fact, you're actually going to force your customers to drive out to massive warehouses, pick up heavy, flat boxes, haul them all the way home, and then spend hours doing the hard labor of building the furniture themselves. On paper, that sounds like a terrible business idea, right? Like a complete paradox. And yet, this exact strategy helped create an absolute titan of industry. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're going to decode the brilliant strategy of a brand that somehow manages to serve hundreds of millions of customers every single year.
So, let's dive right into this blueprint. Here's our agenda for today. First, the IKEA paradox. Second, the flat pack revolution. Third, the customer experience. Fourth, democratic design and scale. And finally, number 5, the blueprint for success.
All right, part 1, the IKEA paradox. To really wrap our heads around this massive paradox of a company, we have to look back at its incredibly humble origins. Because this wasn't some corporate behemoth born in the fancy boardroom. We're talking about a teenager in Sweden back in 1943.
You know what's really fascinating? One of the most recognizable brands on the planet is literally just an acronym. It actually has no intrinsic meaning in Swedish whatsoever. The I and K just stand for the young founder's name, Ingvar Kamprad. The E is for Elmtreed, his family farm, and the A is for Augundred, his hometown. It's a super literal, grounded name for a company that would eventually go on to span the entire globe. But here's the real kicker. It wasn't even a furniture company at first. Nope. Ingvar actually started out selling everyday small items through mail-order catalogs. We're talking pens, wallets, watches, picture frames, the whole shebang. It was only later on that he made the decision to pivot to furniture, and well, that decision permanently altered the course of retail history. Moving on to part 2, the flat pack revolution. Let's look at how they completely flipped the script on what was a really stubborn industry problem. For a long time, high-quality furniture was essentially limited to wealthy families.
Look at this comparison. Traditional furniture companies were basically asking, how can we make premium furniture? Which inherently meant expensive, fully assembled items that cost an absolute fortune to transport. I mean, think about it. You're essentially paying to ship a bunch of empty air inside a pre-built cabinet or a sofa. IKEA, on the other hand, asked a totally disruptive question. They asked, how can we make great furniture that millions of people can actually afford? And their answer? The flat pack. So the absolutely crucial point here is that packing everything into these compact boxes wasn't just some quirky design choice, it was the ultimate cost saver. By not assembling the tables, beds, and chairs at the factory, transportation costs just plummet. The products require vastly less storage space, which means you can pack exponentially more inventory into your warehouses and your delivery trucks. Shipping prices drop dramatically. So by having you, the customer, do the final assembly, the company saves a fortune, you pay a much lower retail price, and basically both sides win.
Which brings us to part 3, the customer experience. Now we're going to shift from cardboard boxes to human brains and examine what actually happens when you step inside one of their massive showrooms. Because the genius of this blueprint isn't just sitting in the warehouse, it's heavily embedded in shoppers' psychology.
If you've ever set foot in one of their stores, you know exactly what this maze feels like, right? There are very few shortcuts. You are guided through a very deliberate journey, walking through fully designed living rooms, cozy bedrooms, super efficient kitchens, and stylish dining spaces. They aren't just putting a couch on a pedestal. They are selling you a whole idea. By helping you clearly imagine exactly how the furniture would look inside your own home, they drastically increase the likelihood of multi-item purchases. It's like you came in for a coffee table, but you end up leaving with the table, the matching rug, a new lamp, and, a fake potted plant.
And this perfectly captures the psychological genius of their model. Psychologists actually named a cognitive bias after the company, the IKEA Effect. It turns out that when people spend their own time and effort assembling a bookshelf or a table, they develop a much stronger emotional connection to it. Because you put your own sweat equity into it, you tend to value that finished product way more than if you had just bought it pre-made. So making you assemble the furniture yourself isn't just saving them money, it's literally making you love the product more. Crazy, right?
Okay, part 4, democratic design and scale. Let's explore how they take this logistical and psychological mastery and scale it across dozens of totally diverse countries. Because it's one thing to do this in a few stores in Sweden, but it's another ballgame entirely to serve hundreds of millions of people globally.
The secret sauce here is a philosophy they call democratic design. Every single product aims to perfectly balance these 5 distinct qualities. It has to look good, it's got to be highly functional, the quality must hold up, it needs to be sustainable, and crucially, it absolutely must be affordable. So instead of focusing on luxury for the few, they design products that work for ordinary, everyday people.
Let's look at how this builds into their global strategy. While they maintain a very strong, cohesive global identity, they are absolute masters of local adaptation. Check out this comparison. Homes in Japan often require much smaller and more compact furniture profiles compared to the sprawling suburban homes you usually see in North American markets. Well, they understand these local lifestyles. They'll customize store layouts, tweak the restaurant menus, and even adjust furniture sizes based on the specific cultural and spatial needs of the country they're operating in.
Now, to do all of this affordably requires absolute supply chain mastery. They source materials globally, standardizing designs and optimizing packaging to an extreme degree. As this quote captures so perfectly, every micro-saving matters. When you're operating at this kind of scale, shaving just a few cents or rupees off the production or packaging of a single item creates massive long-term leverage when you multiply it across millions of products sold year after year.
Finally, Part 5. The Blueprint for Success. So what does this all mean for us? Let's synthesize all of these fascinating strategies into some clear, actionable takeaways you can actually use. Here is the definitive 5-step blueprint derived from their massive success. Number 1. Solve a real customer problem. They democratize good design for the masses. Number 2. Reduce costs through innovation, not by lowering quality. Remember, the flat pack wasn't about making a cheaper table. It was a packaging innovation. Number 3. Create memorable customer experiences, like those maze-like showrooms that inspire ideas. Number 4. Think long-term. Obsess over micro-efficiencies that compound over decades. And number 5. Build systems that scale locally and globally. This empire wasn't built overnight, guys. It was constructed by improving thousands of small, deliberate decisions over many decades.
As we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with this final, provocative thought. Looking back at everything we've just covered, what do you think is their single biggest competitive advantage? Is it their relentless commitment to affordable pricing? Is it the sheer logistical genius of flat-pack furniture? Maybe it's the journey-like immersive store design? Or is it their profound understanding of customer psychology and the IKEA effect? Take a moment to really reflect on that, because the answer reveals a whole lot about what makes a business truly unstoppable. Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive, and keep seeking out those brilliant blueprints hidden in plain sight.